Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the CX Goalkeeper podcast. I'm super thrilled because I'm together with Leo Sommer today. And I met him at a conference, a very interesting one related to AI. And he shared with us an incredible stories or a lot of stories related to schools, the student experience, what's working good, what it's not working good, and in particular, what children will need in future to be prepared for our society, to be prepared for being in business. And I asked him to join, and he said yes, and therefore I'm super thrilled to kick off this discussion. Leo, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Gregorio, for the invitation. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation today. And how should we start?
Let's kick off the game. As usual, we start with the top player presentation. Today is Leo Sommer, and he wrote also an outstanding book. Please, Leo, then share also the name. But let's start. What's the biggest win so far in your journey, Leo?
Well, actually, let's start with explaining where I'm from. Actually, what was my way, so my journey so far. So I had actually an interesting childhood, and I think that shaped also how I think about learning and also about business later on. So I spent my early years in Bussana Vecchia. Actually, it's an artist village in Italy. So we have something in common actually, because I assume that due to your name, you're Italian. And there actually had been no systems and no barriers. So just a lot of freedom, creativity, and human connection. So I think I really learned in the early years of my childhood actually that people don't grow through instruction. They grow really through experience, curiosity, and courage. And after this, actually, I studied also in Florence, and then co-founded a creative agency with my younger brother, Gordon, also one of the most important partners and a person in my life, after my wife, certainly, and my kids. So we actually, for almost 3 decades, worked in classical advertising and brand activation, and really had a lot of fun in the creative industry. And then there was kind of a break where I actually did an executive MBA in creative leadership at the Berlin School of Creative Leadership. And I started there focusing on a question about what could education actually learn from the creative industries to change learning in schools. So to really shape it, let's say in your words, to have an adequate UX or CX actually for the 21st century. So what I practically did is I interviewed and collaborated with 100 people from 35 countries. So it's like filmmakers, designers, scientists, strategists, and also educators, and asked them actually if they could turn school upside down, what would they change to unleash creativity instead of conformity? Because that's what our school is doing. We are actually pushing a lot of conformity. And the results became actually the book that I presented also in Zurich at the wonderful Future Summit. And it's actually in German, it's called When School Sparks Ideas. And it's sort of a manifesto for future learning, actually, and also especially learning with creativity, which in my opinion is actually the core skill of our future. And today I'm working actually at the intersection of education, innovation, and human transformation. So we actually founded the Futuro Mundo Multi-Conference Festival, which took place this year, the first time. It's a festival with 4 streams in parallel. One is education, then we have metaverse, then we have innovation, foresight, and we had startup also. And will be also take place next year again in June. And actually, I'm working in an agency. It's called We Are Family, which is an international agency network focused on communication and learning strategies for the Gen Z and Gen Alpha. So my mission actually is clear. It's really focused on supporting and missionarying the change of learning actually into a learning that really helps us to grow and to change actually the business and also let's say the world into a better place. Because I think that if we learn the skills that are important for the future and that also empowers, especially the next generation, then we could change the world also to a better and to good. But with the place that school is doing today, and also especially the customer experience in education, it's not shaped for doing this. It just comes from another time. So just not in a nutshell, I mean, in a long answer, where I'm coming from.
It's great. Thank you very much because you are now setting the scene, and now we can start the game. You mentioned about customer experience in education. At the end, it's related to the student experience, and let's name it student experience. And I think what you said, it's extremely important. We need to change that how people are learning also due to this AI change, AI transformation, business transformation, but also in the specific case that what we learn when we are children, it's not what we apply when we are a bit elder because everything changed. But now let's ask the first question. What's broken in the school experience today from a student experience point of view?
I think the system, let's say the system isn't broken, actually. It's totally outdated. So it was actually, when we just go back, and the school system was, at least in my knowledge, was built for the industrial age, and it's optimized for standardization and not innovation. So it's created for a world where we know what's coming up, where we think what kind of problems need to be solved. But the world actually is so, I mean, you call it the VUCA world, actually, in a special term, but we live in a world where actually we need to learn how to solve problems that we don't know, actually. And there's an interesting study that I also presented in Zurich, actually. It's a study from Harvard economists Golden and Katz, actually. They showed in their research that, again, like in the industrial age, actually, we are in a time of history where technology is evolving faster than education. That means that we are losing the race between education and innovation. So we don't just need to reform with small paths. We need a radical transformation, because we don't have a technology gap in school. We have just a passion to learn gap. So and also we don't learn what's needed to be learned in the future. And the system it's just totally outdated.
I think what I really like what you said is passion to learn, and therefore I am here because I am doing this podcast because I'm really passionate, and it's the way I'm learning. This is my, let's say, private masterclass. It's not private because it's shared also with the audience, and I hope that also the audience will learn a lot out of it. What would a great customer experience look like for kids in schools today? And I know that it's difficult for you to explain that because you have incredible images in your book and in your presentation that you can share and show. I will put some of them, if you agree, and allow that also in the show notes, so that people can also get a view of that.
Sure. So let's maybe frame what could customer experience of schooling mean, actually. So I think in CX we design meaningful experiences for humans. That's, let's say, the basic. I mean, you are better than that, but I think in education, and that's we need to, or let's say in school education, we must do the same. So we must move actually to customer centricity in school education. So actually we need to move from content delivery to learning experience design. So actually students today mostly don't remember what they were told and what they need to learn. They remember, actually, I think human beings, they remember what they experience and why it matters for them. So I think great school CX actually creates loyalty to what you learn and passion to what you learn. And it helps you actually to also find out how to learn. Because I think we should support ourselves in the next gen to learn actually, and that's what we don't bring over in school. So actually, a great learning experience creates really capability to learn, and education doesn't need new updated digitized contents or whatever. It just needs a better experience design and also, let's say, an easier process for transformation. But I don't know if that helps and gives you support to your question, but it's just what came up
No,
spontaneously.
I really like that. And at the end, it's the two main topics, as you said. We learn through experience, and we first need to learn how to learn. And basically, I see it with my child. Is now in school and he is now learning how to learn. And I can remember from my time when I was at school, my best friend was sitting next to me, and it was incredible. He was reading only once a piece of paper, and then he knew everything. And for me, it was okay. Now I need to write a summary. Then I need to read this summary at least 3 times, and then some things stick to me, but not everything. And then I was repeating, repeating, repeating. And everybody's learning in a different way. Some people see something, some people feel something, some people need to read, and that's really incredible. And what I see that it's one improvements in the right direction is in school where my son is going. They speak about strategies, how to solve problems and so on, and every child has a different way to solve that, and they are allowed to apply different way to solve a problem. And that's something that make me a bit more comfortable that we are going into the right directions. But at the end, it's always also, when I was at the university, it was studying, having everything in my head for the exam. I have everything there, then I can write my exam, and 3 days after that, I forgot that. And that's the completely different way now of approaching if we can learn through experiences and feeling stuff. For example, it was extremely interesting seeing Jung with very passionate explaining to us these topics during the future symposium. And I think that's really key. Do you have perhaps some insights, some tips, some suggestion to the audience?
Well, I think that, and that's very often what I'm not talking about a change of, let's say, the system or whatever. I think what we need actually is kind of, it's a bit the same like in business actually. If you want to change something, you need to start also with the culture that needs to be changed. And I think what we need to understand actually is that the biggest blocker, excuse me, is in schools is it's not the curriculum or what we learn actually. It's the culture of fear. Because in what we're doing actually, especially with grades and assessment, is we are producing generations that are fear of mistakes. And fear of grades, fear of judgment. And fear actually is, from the humanity side, it's something that brings us into a survival mode, and it kills initiative. It kills ideas and innovation. Actually, it's also, I was really happy that seeing that also the OECD actually, I think 2 years ago, they had for the first time, they had also the PISA study also including the creativity check actually in schools, no? And so it's really awesome. It's aware now that creativity is almost killed by education. And Andreas Schleicher from the OECD actually once said also the most successful education systems are those where learning risk is safe. And that is exactly, I think, the shift we need from a performance culture to a learning culture. And that starts with psychologically safety, and not only for students, but also for teachers. And if you remember what we had in business, that was exactly what changed also in the business in the last 100 years. Because no leader could have a good performance in a new work-driven business, actually, if we try fear. And that's what kids coming out of school, and they think they need to do everything right. And I presented actually this, maybe you remember that study that I presented in Zurich also. It's this famous NASA test actually that there's this researcher from 1968, the study, and John Schlange, actually, he tested 1,600 children with the same creativity test, and 98% of children scored at creative genius level. in the first years. But as adults after I think they had it like 15 years done with the same programs, only 2% did. So we are not born uncreative. We are educated out of creativity and out of some driven by fear. And I think that must change. So it's a cultural thing, in my opinion.
Culture is the key to everything, and I think a lot of CEOs are sharing that now that they are learning that. But at the end, it's exactly what you are saying. We are also, at least at team level, not anymore only managed at performance level. You need to do this and this and that, but it's also about being creative, creating, and applying all this method that you mentioned, design thinking, experience management, and so on, to create something amazing for the customer of this company, and then it's also appreciated. But I think you are touching really an important role at the end. What role should we as companies, as societies, play in reshaping education?
It's an interesting point of view, and I'm especially with our initiatives. Maybe later also, and let's say it started with our book, but also we funded the Initiative Classroom think tank, and also I mentioned the Futumundo Festival. What we are trying is to bring education together with in education, especially if you call it like the learning places out of school, actually, and to bring it together with society and business. And I think that businesses and also companies could support schools with, let's say, relevant knowledge, but also support the transformation. And also, I think that we're not talking about an education issue. It's a future of work issue, what the future of learning is in there. So every company actually is talking about transformation, agility, and innovation. But yet we still educate young people with a model built for routine and repetition. And the latest shortage is not a recruiting problem, it's a learning problem. So the future workforce is in today's classrooms. And if you want innovative companies tomorrow, we need better learning systems today. And let's say yesterday. So the future of business depends on the learning culture of our society and of your society. So I think we have a responsibility with businesses really to support, and I think also to push for a change. So really to also to shout out that it's really important to do it now, because everywhere we are searching for talents and so on, and we don't we don't create these talents in education. We then need to recreate the relevant skills later on in business. And why are we doing this? It's just bizarre.
Yes, and I think, as you mentioned now, and we learn from you a lot of things, but one is that we learn through experiencing that. Then let's move to the second half of this discussion, and let's really discuss about tangible examples. Can you share a real story where a school changed its student experience successfully?
Yeah, I had the chance to, especially during the time where I wrote the book, actually to meet a lot of school leaders, and I think very often it's especially about, we need to discuss also what leadership drives actually to the school. So I think it's more or less the change not comes to the school, but it comes to the school community with a certain leadership change. And there had been, for example, just name some personalities. The first that impressed me really hard is Patrick Newell from the Tokyo International School in Tokyo. His story is also pretty fascinating. It's an American, actually fell in love with a Japanese woman, and they didn't find a school that they thought is relevant for their kids. So they funded the Tokyo International School, and what was really interesting there is that is the self-confidence and the self-empowerment that he gave to the learners. So it's when you go into the school, actually you feel that everybody is owning his own learning journey. So it's that they have the power actually to decide what they need to learn and what they want to learn. So I think there you have a really good example of culture. learning culture. Then in Germany, actually, we have one, I wouldn't say the famous, but a very popular school. It's a school in Wutoschingen, and again there's also the leader. He's called Stefan Rupane. What he actually has done is even with a state school, so it's a school actually. He found out what kind of changes he could do in the barriers given. So, for example, there are no assessments and grades until the last school year. There are no classrooms, and there are no actually differences between ages. So everybody learns actually in groups with the people he wants to learn with and he's passionate to learn with. And so practically there's also the whole structure of school is just transformed, no? And to give you an example of my book, actually, where I switched actually, let's say, the learnings from creative industry. We spoke about culture is are the four freedoms actually from DDB. So DDB actually is one of the biggest creative agencies still today, actually globally. And Keith Reinhardt actually had the time when he was the chairman. Actually, the four freedoms actually brought into the let's say the company. And these freedoms, for example, there's also one freedom of fear. So that everybody really, every leader actually needs to take care that there is no fear in the working place. Then it's the freedom to be, and two other freedoms. To not go into detail, but it's really let's say a cultural framework actually that gives clear statements about how the culture needs to be driven. And I could, in my book, actually, it's 450 pages long, so there are tons of examples. So it makes sense to read it. But later on, I mean, you might post actually the link actually to the book, because it's really a pleasure to go through, especially real examples that are tangible and where you can just, and that's the reason why people read this book and also have it always in the bookshelf and take it out again. It's praxis where you can just say, I change small things and do it better today than tomorrow, because it's nothing to do with the system. I change actually my own ecosystem. So I can start with small things in education to change. I don't need to change the state. I can change things in my small own ecosystem. Is it at home? Is it in school? Is it at business? No? And I think that's what's important also in my opinion. We should actually, and that's what the initiative Classroom Think Tank is more, it's a makers, let's say a movement maker initiative. It's not an initiative that tells you how to do some things. And lastly, give me these 3 minutes, is really interesting is the initiative and the method My Machine. Actually, we brought My Machine to Germany also last year for the first time. It's a learning method where kids in the age of 7 to 10 are brought to be the inventors of their dream machines. And the university actually is the designing space. So the university students create let's say the design of these dream machines, and then a technical secondary school builds prototypes. And we had in Stuttgart this year 300 learners of these, let's say, intersectional and also over the generations learning method. And they created together 4 dream machines in the period of 9 months. And then they presented the machines at the Futomundo Festival. And I think this method is also a great example that shows kids learn how to be creative. They learn that ideation is not so easy. They learn to communicate. They learn that actually mathematics is worth to learn because it can be used to create something, and so on and so on. So I think that's a really fantastic example also from My Machine, the method from the My Machine Foundation actually, that also processes and learning methods that are really thought into a system that is connected with, let's say, a learning places from out of school actually really could work if, let's say, these collaborate and also drive creativity and curiosity. I'm
Thank
ready.
you for these incredible examples. We really enjoyed that, and I had the pleasure to see them. But you mentioned something I want to touch. You mentioned the book. Yes, you said 450 page. To the audience, don't be scared because I can confirm that it's really nice to read. I didn't read it completely, but what blew my mind was my son. He saw me having this book in the end, and then he started looking at it. And in the books, there are also great pictures. And then he saw this picture and he asked, "Oh, what's happening here? Are they doing now sports?" No, they are in the school. They are learning because it's a different way of learning. And I think that's also incredible for my son, for children to have a look at it and to see what would be possible outside to spark creativity and have these ideas to
Yeah, that's
that.
so lovely that you tell me that. So, and I'm excited to hear this. Never heard actually that parents and kids reading that book together. But yes, it's thanks to the designer actually Bruno Bertani. He studied with me also in the MBA, and in Corona times he had the passion to do this wonderful design. I think it shows also how important this, let's say again, this customer experience of a learning book had been for you, no? Because I think I tried, or we tried to make it make it also passionable to read something that creates change, and to push this also with a lovely experience, no? And also, let's say, an emotional experience. And I think that what the book does, thanks to Bruno's design, the structure.
Thank you. Now we are coming to an end, but as usual at the end of the game, we have some penalties. It's quick fire rounds, short answer to short questions. Who is your role model in business?
My role in my business is, I think, my wife and my brother.
Your transformation superpower?
I think my transformation superpower is really excitement, and I think what I love to do is really excite people to be driven by change, and also to change, because I try to bring over the excitement of things that others actually doing good.
We can feel that. I can confirm.
Thank you.
What's your favorite school vibe?
School, what is that? Sorry.
It's what did you liked in school? It's sports. But I think it's creativity.
It was definitely art. Actually, I had the skill to draw really good, and also that was driven by my mom. She was an art teacher, so it was definitely art. I had 15 points. That's the highest grade in art, in this topic. And the other topics have been really bad. So I had mathematics 4 out of 15 and whatever. So, but art is, I loved it. And that's why I've been good in it also.
What's the toughest challenge that you beat in business?
Numbers. I mean, it's weird because I'm working in sales, but it's, I mean, that's at least, I don't love numbers.
And your winning habit?
The winning habit is, I think that the jogging also, let's say, take the coffee and the break every morning with my wife in a ritual, and also our dog. I think that's something that gives me power, really, and also brings me in mood.
Thank you very much. And now we are coming to the real last question. Is Leo's golden nugget, it's something that we discussed or something new to leave to the audience with?
Golden nugget, that's interesting. What is this? Maybe you need to explain that more.
It's something that we discussed or something new that you want to leave to the listeners. That's food for thoughts for the audience.
I think because we didn't touch this, let us change. Let's say start with the topic of AI, because I think AI is, yes, it replaces a lot, but I think what we need to think about is that we should use AI to optimize execution, and not think that we can use it to create, because we are actually that is our main difference to AI, is that we are the creators and we can really produce original ideas and AI can't do it. So take care for your kids that they don't use AI to create something. Bring them out of technology and to bring them to create something in the real life and in the real world, and use AI to execute it. I think that's really important for all of us.
Leo, thank you very much for your time. Please stay with me. To the audience, it was a great pleasure to have a discussion with Leo. I think we could have invested 2, 3, 4 hours to discuss that. His
Definitely.
engagement is it was sparkling, this energy related to this topic. It was incredible. I hope that you enjoyed this discussion as much as I did. Thank you very much, and bye bye.
Grazie, Gregorio.